we all deserve great relationships, not okay relationships, not whatever type of relationships, but great relationships. And that great relationships don't just happen or don't just appear in front of someone and that's it, they have it doesn't work like that. Great relationships are built over time and with patience and with work.
And for us, we spoke in September 2021. So it's been
Wow.
almost exactly a year since it just turned October.
Wow.
So yeah, just about a year.
It feels like it's been yesterday, really. I can't believe it. It's been almost a year since we've talked. Actually, just over a year since we talked.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm. It has
it's
flown by.
flown. Yes, it has flown by so fast, and so many things happened. And I think also because we kind of kept in touch via email, I felt that
Hmm.
we just recently spoke. So,
Yeah, that's true. So what would you say since then in this past year has been the biggest change for you?
wow. So with me personally, in my personal life, the biggest change was that I moved to another country.
Oh wow, that's a
So
huge change.
yes, I lived in the UK for the past 11 years,
Hmm.
and I just moved away because we wanted to be closer to both our families, both mine and my
Mm.
husband families. We both come from the same country, basically from Eastern Europe, and because right now our jobs permits it, because we're both working from from home basically, and also
Hmm.
because we are seriously working on expanding our family, as in having children.
Oh wow.
We said, we want to be closer to family and especially to future grandparents, and because we wanted for our kids to have that
Like a
emotions as
support
well.
system.
Yes, I wanted the support system for myself, yes, but I also wanted the children to have a lot of nice memories with their grandparents,
Mm. Yeah.
because, for example, growing up, I was far away from my grandparents. I used to see them like once or maybe twice a year for like a couple of days, and that's it.
Hmm.
Whereas my husband, he was actually raised by his grandparents for the first 5, 6 years of his life. So, we had these different types of experiences in our lives, but we wanted
Yeah.
for our children, to be close to their grandparents, because at the end of the day, our parents do have an age, and, maybe for the next, let's say, 5 years, it would have been okay for them to keep traveling back and forth on a plane. But after a certain age, it gets more difficult. So,
Yeah, that's true.
we've put everything in balance, and we decided that it would be the wisest for us to move closer to them. And we're obviously very grateful that we could do it. So this was one very big change this year. Um, it's been, quite an interesting journey because um, I get emotionally tied to things like the house,
Mm.
like a car, like
Yeah.
places.
I can get like
So
that too. Hmm.
for me it was a bit more difficult to actually let go and seriously consider leaving the UK and moving somewhere else. But then, once I put everything on paper and I compared all the benefits, all the pros and cons, this move actually made a lot more sense in my head as well, and I accepted it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Uh, and on the better topics side of things, we have actually partnered up with a high school teacher from Denver, Colorado, and
Oh.
we're working on launching a new game. And I don't know if your listeners know, but the better topics. The first time I actually came on to talk to you, I was talking about the Better Topics card game for couples,
Yep.
which we still have and is still available on our website and on Amazon. But right now we are working on a card game that is for people who are in the dating phase.
Hmm. Which is really
So
exciting. I like that idea a lot.
Yes, and it's been such a great idea, and it's, I mean, it makes so much sense now, obviously, because we're working on it for so long now, for quite a few months. But it seems so simple, yet such a brilliant idea. Because this
Mhm.
teacher, his name is Scott Allen, um, he actually created this game to help his students with their dating issues, because he realized that especially
Interesting.
teenagers, yes, especially
Mhm.
teenagers, they don't really listen to advice. They're not going to read a
Mhm.
book on dating. They're not going to,
Definitely not.
read not even a short article on dating, but they would uh, be more willing to accept advice that comes through games and play,
Yeah.
and this is something that resonated with me quite a lot, because this is something that we incorporated into the Better Topics card game for couples as well. It's like
Mhm.
um, educational fun in a way. You do
Yeah.
important things, you learn new things, how to do them, but through fun. Because
Mhm.
when we're kids, that's the best and easiest way how we learn various things. And
Yeah.
as we grow up, we forget to play, and we many
Yeah,
times
we
tend
forget
to
to have
take
fun.
out, yes, we tend to take out the fun out of learning. So we end up, like in college, or even after, where we are stressed by learning, which we shouldn't be, because learning can still be fun.
Mhm.
So we have partnered up with him, and we're working in making the game. We have tailored it a bit, to be a bit more suitable for various scenarios.
Mhm.
And right now, the game has, let's say, two play options. So, people can play it as a solitaire type of version, or they can also play it in groups, which is more amazing,
Okay.
because, when you play it with your friends, you're again more likely to do it because it's more
Yeah.
fun, and you also get to spend time with your friends. Um, and friends as well, they can help each other through this game to think of better dates, and help them make better dating decisions, at the end of
Yeah.
the day.
And it's funny cuz when you first said high school teacher, it in my mind for some reason it sounded kind of unorthodox, but then I mean when you think about it, that is when you start jumping into dating, and no matter how much you try to push kids away from it, they're going to start dating in high school, and that's when those things are going to start to come up. So it makes perfect sense to start to learn good habits and to teach them to make better decisions at that age. Because, I mean, I feel like even though, like now as adults, sometimes we have a tendency to look at kids and be like, oh, well, you're so young, you'll get over it. What do you know about this and that?
Yeah,
But if we think about our experiences, even though we were so young, and yeah, they are kind of, for most of us, they're just experiences that have passed, they still left a significant mark on you. And the way like
yeah,
you were treated or the way you treat someone at a young age in a dating phase can go on to affect you in your adult life.
exactly. But not just that. You remember your dating years, and remember all the heartache and stress that you went through
Yeah.
in learning things, because
Mm-hmm.
I had the same thing. Like, I have so many crazy dating stories, is unreal, and I'm sure many people do.
Yeah.
But all those crazy stories led to a lot of frustration over the years. Because I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't figure out, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, why do I have to go through this? All of these questions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And just imagine that if we teach children and teenagers especially, about making better dating choices, they can bypass years of learning through failure, and years of
Mm-hmm.
heartache, and years of stress. They can just bypass that and straight away get to a better relationship, because
Mm-hmm.
a great relationship starts with a good partner. Once you
Yeah.
have a good partner for yourself, already, like, I think 95% of the problems at least are sorted just by having a great partner to begin with, because
Yeah.
everything else just falls into place. The communication is there, the fun is there, everything just follows. You just need to do a bit of work, and that's it. Like, you have a great relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start off with the wrong partner for you, especially, oh my God, like, so many issues come out of that. and then you have
Yeah.
to fix those, and then there might be another few years until you realize actually we're not compatible, we might as well, go on our separate ways. So instead of going through all of that trial and error that so many of us have gone through, with a game like this that is super fun, and I'm so excited for it, honestly, because um even working on it and creating the cards and the rules and everything just got me so excited, because
Hmm.
especially now that I'm thinking of having children, I'm like, this is a
Yeah.
game I would play with them. And
Yeah.
it's not just for kids at the end of the day, it's for anyone who is dating,
Hmm.
anyone in the dating phase. They can play this game and it can actually help them, let's say, um, make them realize what the important things are for them.
Yeah.
What are some of the red flags that are, let's say, too important, so they would not accept them, or what are some so-called red flags but they could actually deal with, you know
Yeah. Hmm.
because the way the game is structured, you have um, a lot of characteristics and traits of people, and you have from worst to best in different categories. We have like 37 different categories. And you have, for example, with income, like so there is the lowest, where they have no income, nothing for to show up for their name,
Hmm.
and they live on the streets and all of that. And then, or maybe they have like a steady job and they make few thousand a month and they can support themselves, or maybe they're like super wealthy. And then another characteristic might be something to do with loyalty, like they're like super loyal, they take care of you and stuff. Or the other side is, they always look at somebody else, you know
Hmm.
and then you get to line up like seven traits in a column in front of you, and that is one person, and then you get to line up another person, like at least two or three columns like these if you play
Hmm.
like in the solitaire version. And then you get to think of each one of those as being one person, and whether you actually would date that person with everything that's going on. Like, are
Mm.
they reliable? Do they have a steady job? Or do you even care if they have a job? Or
Yeah.
maybe they're just an artist that they might be successful, so you might be okay with that. So there are many, many traits and variations that could come up, because as there are billions of people in the world, there
Yeah.
are billion options as well of people that you could date.
Hmm.
So you get to choose, like, between, let's say, the two columns, which one would you rather date, out of the two? Because one of
Hmm.
them, as I said, might be an artist, but he might still be successful and he might also be loyal. Or the other one might be, I don't know, super wealthy, um, travels a lot, but then, he doesn't really mind whether you're okay or not. He doesn't really take care
Hmm.
of you. He's not paying attention to you. He always is busy, always on his phone, whatever,
Yeah.
things like this, and then you get to choose actually which one would be most important for you, you know?
Yeah. Hmm.
And by playing it more and more, you get to understand exactly what do you want in a partner. This is one of the starting points in dating wisely, let's say, or dating better and not making as many
Yeah.
mistakes, is first of all knowing what you want and realizing what is it compatible with you and what is it not. What are the things that you are willing to accept and what not,
Hmm.
and as we mature, in age, we tend to learn that again through trial and error
Yeah.
mostly. Um, but when we're younger, we don't really pay attention to those until sometimes
Hmm.
it's too late. We tend
Yeah.
not to look at those. We just look at someone, you just see them, like they smiled. Oh, maybe she wears a short dress. Okay, I'll date her. Like those normally
Yeah.
are the basic criterias, and then everything else we will figure out later. But
Hmm.
that figuring out process sometimes takes years and years. So that's why, by playing a game like this, people can just shortcut years of bad dating situations.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I don't think I've ever heard or seen anything like that with that kind of concept. You know, dating's always going to take trial and error, but it would also have been nice to know, okay, there are certain things that I won't accept and certain things that I'll let slide. And maybe if I would have known a little earlier certain things that I won't accept, there could have been certain experiences avoided along the way.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
that's really interesting. And how was it that you got connected to that teacher?
Actually, he reached out to us because
Oh.
he invented the first version of the game, let's say, because now we are working at like at a more in-depth version that we are
Mm-hmm.
going to launch soon. And he reached out to us because he's seen the Better Topics card game for couples, and it was the only
Mm-hmm.
one out there that was the most similar to what he was doing. Although our
Mm-hmm.
original card game was for couples and his is
Yeah.
for dating, it somehow falls under the same umbrella, the same niche, dating, relationships, and these type of things. And
Yeah, definitely.
he was just curious how we launched the first Kickstarter campaign, which was in 2020 when we launched the Better Topics card game for couples.
Mm-hmm.
And once he explained exactly what his card game is about, and especially when we've seen how passionate he's about helping his students, I was so impressed, by his passion and his willingness to go not the one extra mile, but the extra 100 miles, just to help
Mm-hmm.
them. Because normally he's teaching like English and math and other types of subjects,
Yeah.
but still he has such a great connection with his students that he wanted to help them even further. Like his students trust him even to go to him, for dating advice, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Because thinking of my time in high school, which was a while ago, um, I don't think I ever had a teacher where to whom I could have gone and asked for dating advice. And when you're
Yeah.
a teenager, again, you're not very willing to go to your parents either,
Oh, definitely not.
because as a teenager, you always have this impression that you know everything and you just discovered the world.
Mm-hmm.
And as teenagers, we forget to remember that our parents have been on this earth for at least 20 years before us, so they do have a lot more experience. But seeing the great connection that he had with his students and his passion for it as well, that was, I think, what impressed us the most. And that was when we really thought about it, because we were so blown away how well it fits under the Better Topics umbrella and what we want
Mm-hmm.
to do. So that's when we offered him to partner up, so we can take this and refine it, and
Mm-hmm.
then launch it, and help basically thousands and thousands of people out there who are dating and still struggling with dating.
Yeah. And I definitely hear, I mean, just like it on social media and stuff, I always hear a lot of people talking about how they're just kind of sick of dating in this generation. And I can definitely see a need for something like this right now, especially when there is such a huge, like, there's so many people expressing frustration around dating right now.
So one thing, what I would like to mention there is that dating has always been frustrating.
True, very
The
true.
difference, I think the main difference from, let's say, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and now, is that people are more comfortable talking about it now and
Yeah,
sharing
that's
their bad
true.
experiences now.
That's
Because when
very
I
true.
was dating in my 20s, which actually wasn't that far along, it was like just
Mm-hmm.
like I'm married for over 4 years, so let's say 5 to 6 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
people weren't talking about dating as much,
Yeah, that's true.
and but whether you talk with someone who they're like early 30s, late 20s, mid 20s, mid 30s, 40s, whatever, you will see that most of them actually have very similar frustrations around dating. The
Mm-hmm.
difference is that the younger generations are more willing to speak about them, whereas the
Yeah.
older generations are still very reticent because, oh my God, what will people think that I went on so many dates or on so many bad dates? They will think something is
Mm.
wrong with me. Whereas the
That's a good
younger
point.
generation, yes, the younger generation is like, no, I'm okay. It's just, I had many bad dating experiences. That doesn't make me a bad person per se.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there is this difference as well in perception, but the dating experiences themselves have always been there.
That's
And
true.
maybe again, something that makes dating right now, let's say, as a bigger issue, is also the fact that more and more people are into online dating.
Mm-hmm. I think that
Whereas
is too.
before dating was maybe a small part limited to online, and then the major part of dating would have been still around physical dating, so
Mm-hmm.
people would actually go out more, maybe even just to meet people, but also to socialize and also, to find those potential dates. Whereas now, as more and more people are more comfortable with online dating, they also tend to connect with a lot more people than they used to before,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Like, there's more people have a higher flow of dating because of online dating, so that leads probably to more frustration because you're adding more experiences than you normally would have had.
Yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
And then also, like
Um,
how you were saying, it's not like before it was mostly socializing to meet people, so that kind of adds a little bit more of a fun aspect to just what you're doing already. Like you're already going out and having fun while meeting people, where now it's people are just kind of sitting around, maybe in bed, finding people and not really having fun in the process of it anymore.
yes, yes.
Wow.
Also, I mean, again, I've done all types of dating in my dating life. I've done online dating quite a lot, to be honest, because I was working many hours at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and in my normal routine, I didn't felt I could find the right person for me.
Yeah.
So I opted for that as well. I have some good stories from it. I have some terrible stories as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've even been once to a speed dating,
Oh,
which
really?
was it was such a traumatic event. I mean, don't get me wrong. The speed dating that you see in TV and in
Mm-hmm.
movies, that's fun, if you look at it from the outside,
Yeah.
especially. The one that I've been to was a total train wreck, mainly because I was the
Oh,
only girl
no.
there.
Oh,
And
no.
the lady who was organizing it, and there were like 8 guys, and I was like, okay. So, and that
How's
was
this gonna
very
work?
strange. Yes,
Yeah,
that
that
was very
is.
strange also because some of them we clearly didn't match. But what I've done is at that point, because I was like, well, I'm here anyway, I'm dressed up, might as well, just spend some time. Um, we actually sat down and the guys were like asking me questions because I told them like,
Mm-hmm.
listen, I will be very honest with you. I was sent here by my brother, which was true. He's like, I'm gonna pay for your ticket, just go because I'm very curious, how is an event like this? And I was like, why don't you go?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, nah, I would rather you go. So I went, and it was still to this day it's in the categories of bad dates, but not the worst. Like there've been
Yeah.
a lot worse than that. And
Definitely a funny story.
yes, and I remember telling the guys, I'm like, listen, if we're here, let's just do like a Q&A type of session. I will
Mm-hmm.
answer from a woman's perspective, so you can actually get a woman's perspective to your questions,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel many of you have this very, um, let's say, misconstrued ideas about what a woman
Mm-hmm.
actually wants based
Yeah.
on what other guys say who are just frustrated because they couldn't get the girl, and they're like, oh, she's too high nosed or whatever things that
Yep.
people say. So we actually ended up having this Q&A session, which was fun. um and I thought at that point, I'm like, I'm actually quite good at this, and this was way before even meeting my husband and way before even starting better topics. Because one day actually I started thinking, when did all this come together? And
Mm-hmm.
throughout my dating life, I've seen many points where I got smarter and smarter, mainly because I educated myself in the field. Because
Mm-hmm.
I said, if I want a good relationship, I need to first understand what that is, how to do it, and then I'll start actually doing it and working on it. And
Yeah.
obviously, I still learn, even
Mm-hmm.
even this day, even today, I'm still learning as I go.
Of
But
course.
still, I have, I feel I have learned quite a lot. I'm not saying I'm an expert in
Mm-hmm.
relationship, but I do feel I know more than the vast majority of people, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, even in dating and even with those guys, they had many questions, and many of them, you know, when you think about those from a woman's perspective, um, at that point, again, I was very honest with them and I told them exactly, frankly, what a woman would think or do in that type of situation. Now, again, I understand there are many women, not everyone would do the same as I, but
Mm-hmm.
most would.
Yeah.
And I think this as well might be an issue with dating today, where people just, I don't know, they don't know how to refuse nicely, I think, So when they don't
Yeah.
know how to do that, they just ghost you, which just leaves you
Yes.
frustrated, like, what happened? Like, you don't have any feedback to it, you don't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not saying you should be rude to people and just refuse them or like shut them out or something, but still
Yeah.
say like, you're not my type, or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, if that's the case. Or I don't know, I like someone who's, let's say, blonde instead of brunette or whatever, things like that. And
Yeah.
that would leave you with some feedback like, okay, we're not compatible with each other, I might be compatible with someone else, instead of just being ghosted, which I have been as well, and it's terrible. And then just wondering for a while, what did I do wrong? And then replaying everything in your mind a
Mm-hmm.
few times to understand where did you do wrong. So, dating at any age is difficult, I think. Uh,
Yes.
Again, because unfortunately, dating is not taught in schools like everything else in life. So you have to do it by trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, many times it takes years to learn, which is frustrating.
Yes,
But we can
definitely.
bypass that now. We can bypass those hurtful years and just, um, go straight to finding a better partner for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and back to again like how common like online dating and dating apps are. I think that's another reason why people have kind of lost communication skills when it comes to dating, because if you if you have so many options, then everyone kind of feels like, oh, it is okay just to leave someone in the dark and just to stop talking to them, rather than like, I don't understand why people think it's rude. I mean, I guess I can understand, but I don't feel like it's necessarily rude to just say, hey, I don't think this is going to work out. And, maybe we should just like end this here. I personally feel like that's a much better way to go about things than just to leave someone wondering and just, not let anyone know what's going on. And that's always difficult. So, yeah, that's definitely a common problem now for sure.
Yes, yes, it
Mm-hmm.
is. But then, the dating principles are basically the same as they were always were. If you find someone
Mm-hmm.
you like, you're gonna start talking to them, spend time with them more and more, and go on dates, get to know each other, and all of that. But I think, as you also said, there is so much choice that people don't take care of the way they talk to other people,
Yes.
because they're like, oh, it's fine if this guy got upset, I don't care, there are 100 others that wait for me
Mm-hmm.
to reply to their
Yep.
messages. So
Yeah.
that too, again, because the amount of dating and the amount of people that we meet increased a lot with being more comfortable on the internet and everything. I think that too brought this feeling overall that these days it's more difficult to date than it used to be. It's just
Yeah.
mainly because if you think about it, it is sort of a numbers game where the
Mm-hmm.
number is higher now, so the problem seems higher and bigger
Yeah.
now than it used
Definitely.
to be.
Mm-hmm. And I could see this game putting more of a perspective in someone's mind of the quality over the quantity, of like wanting to explore who someone really is so much instead of just being so quick to judge. Because I feel like whether it's dating or any type of relationship with people, we tend to be very quick to judge.
Exactly. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's again, this with quick to judge, they also have it in interviews, for example,
Mm.
in jobs and in
Mm-hmm.
HR, where they always say that the first impression counts the most.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with dating as well. The first
Mm-hmm.
impression does count, and then you need to put in a lot of effort to change the first impression if the first one was
Mm.
quite bad.
Yeah.
So again, that tells you a lot about a person. For example, um, in my dating years, I think this is one of the shortest dates I've ever been on. It was like 5 minutes, and I'm not even joking.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, I think, about 25, 26. I got dressed, I got ready. I had this nice dress, summery dress, and like high heels, and I went. We were supposed to meet like in a park. It was like a blind date. We've met online. We hit it off amazingly well, and we said, okay, let's meet. And we did that, and he came in um sweatpants, but the low crotch sweatpants type of thing, and
Yeah.
and like a very large like t-shirt that I wouldn't even wear inside, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst I understand that that type of outfit would be totally okay with many people because the person counts and all of that, I understand that too. However, for me, that actually put me off straight
Mm-hmm.
away. Like when I saw
Yeah.
him like that, it put me off for so many reasons. First of all, because I have a very different style, and straight away I could realize that we don't match.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that his style is worse or mine is better. It just means that
Yeah.
we don't really match. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I am at one level and he's a different level, not necessarily, worse or better. It's just like different
Yeah.
levels.
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, I've put so much thought into what I was going to wear and getting ready and making myself look nice and putting makeup on as well and everything. And he, by coming to a date like that, the message I got was that he didn't really care. He's
Yeah,
just
I could see
there
that.
for the fun of it, but that's it. Like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, if you don't care, if you don't put in a bit of effort to show me that you actually want to be here on this date and you're appreciative of my time and everything, and our
Yeah.
time together, then what does that tell me about what's to come? If for the first date
Yeah.
you're not willing to put in a bit of effort, then what's next? And I'm not saying this to say I don't want people to have the impression that I'm like a princess, that oh my god, you have to value my time because I blessed you with my presence. It's not like that.
No,
is
not at all.
is just the fact that I expected at least a similar, if not the same, level of commitment for the date
Yeah,
and for the
exactly.
time
You want
together.
as much effort as you put in. You want to receive as much effort as you gave, and that's understandable.
Yes. And
Yeah.
again, if on the first date you're not willing to put your best foot forward, then why are we even doing this? We're just losing each
Mm-hmm.
other's time. We shook hands and I left. and that was it. Obviously, he wasn't too happy with it, but at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, I hope he understood, because what would have been the point to just lose each other's time? Yes, maybe he was a great guy otherwise, because again, online we hit it off quite nicely, and he was quite funny as well. But by that time, I kind of knew what I wanted. And
Yeah.
again, once you know what you want, you can tell from the very beginning if you know it is likely for it to be compatible with someone or not. You know.
Yeah.
So in
It's
that
having that
case,
understanding of yourself, like what you, because it's going to be different for everyone. Maybe for somebody else that wouldn't have mattered so much. But
exactly.
if you know what you value and what you want, then I mean, that's okay to want to move on and find it.
Exactly. So, first impressions do still count even to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how people are willing to put in a lot of effort when they go to an interview, but not when they go on a date.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I understand you want to be a bit more relaxed on a date and not so stressed as if for an interview. But again, if for a date you're not ready to prepare yourself and, again, put your best foot forward,
Yeah.
when will you? When
Mm-hmm.
you're
That's
7
true.
years married, or like, because everyone keeps saying that the best years are the first ones.
Mm-hmm.
Now again, it really depends on a situation, but I always had this personal belief that if it's not great in the beginning, then when will it be
Yeah,
great?
that's
why
true.
should i why should I wait for 10 years and then for it to be great, when you can
Mm-hmm.
actually choose for a great relationship from the beginning to end? Yes, you do have to work on it yourself as well, but again, if you have a willing partner from the beginning, it makes everything a lot easier, and you
Mm-hmm.
can, you you can make those, let's say, 10 years, 20 years of a relationship great
Yeah.
if you have a great partner. And again, each one of us have different criterias what a great partner means, and it's up to us to find them out. And again, touching back on the game, this is a fun way to help people to realize that for themselves,
Yeah.
because there are like a lot of good characteristics, or let's say more positive characteristics in the game of people, and there are some red flags as well. But again,
Mm-hmm.
certain things that I might consider as a red flag, you might not, you know
Yeah, exactly.
or you might consider them, let's say, a yellow flag, whereas if it is discussable but still something manageable,
Yeah.
at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day. So, but maybe I would just simply not accept that. I wouldn't even want to go there. But
Yeah.
again, this is something that each one of us have to figure out on our own. And then um, you can basically just bypass a lot of heartache, because you know what to look for. You know what types of questions to ask then to get the answers you want. And then you can
Mm-hmm.
decide whether, yes, I am going to date this person or not, you know?
Yeah.
And the feedback from the game has been amazing, especially from Scott's students that have played the game with him many times. And not long ago, actually, just told me about this very fun story with one of his colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
another teacher who is dating currently, and he played the game with her. He explained the rules and everything. So she actually became a lot more aware of what she would accept in a person or not. And she said that the following weekend, she actually went on a date. And within half an hour, she realized that that person was not the right person for her,
Wow.
which is amazing, because
Yeah.
basically she bypassed 3 months or even 6 months of dating in trying to
Mm-hmm.
figuring that out, because she knew
Yeah.
exactly what to ask and what to pay attention to.
That's so cool. I think that is definitely something a lot of us don't think about is trying to learn about ourselves and figure out those things for ourselves first. Because I know from experience, I can say there are things that I didn't know that I wanted or things that I didn't know that I didn't want until I had it. And I was like, oh, never mind. I don't like that. And it took me going through that experience rather than finding out for myself. And it probably would have saved some bad experiences for both of us if I would have known that on my own. And
Yes.
it's funny because the last time we spoke on the first episode, I asked if you, now that you had kind of gotten into this world of making games, if you were going to continue onto it. And at that time, you weren't really sure, but you knew that if you were to do it again, it would be something in the same realm. So it is cool to see that that kind of came about for you now.
Thank you. Yes, it is quite amazing because all these journeys since I've started Better Topics over 2 years ago, it's been such a big blessing. I've learned so much. It's unbelievable, and I'm still
Mm-hmm.
learning every day.
Yeah.
Um, and the old saying of "be careful what you wish for because you will get it."
Yep.
It's still very true today, because I did want to help even more people, because we had so many players that got the Better Topics card game for couples,
Mm-hmm.
and many of them asked us if we have some similar game that they could play with their friends.
Yeah.
And at that
Mm-hmm.
point, we didn't have anything just yet, because I was still so focused on promoting Better Topics card game for couples. And I was like, when I'll have a bit of time, I'll think of a game how to include friends as well in interesting
Mm-hmm.
conversations. And then, interestingly enough, Scott, appeared out of nowhere, seemingly,
Yeah.
and he came with the game, and I was like, oh my god, this is so much better than what I had in mind for friends to play. And we have adapted it, and we have polished it a bit here and there, and now it looks like amazing. Even the graphics were ready today, I think, and we just looked at them, and I'm so excited to see the cards, how they will actually look. And also, so many people asked us to create games that parents can play with kids, for example, because
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
even the
talked
card
about that a
game
little bit.
for yeah, even the card game for couples, some couples actually play it with their children as well, because they love the
Mm.
questions so much that they play it with their children. They obviously take out certain very specific questions that are
Yeah.
a relationship surrounded, but
Mm-hmm.
once they take those out, they are still left with plenty questions that they can play with their kids. And they're like,
That's
if
so
you
cool.
if you could make like a game for like slightly younger kids, would be even more amazing. And I was like, okay, we'll do that as well, just let's take it one at a time,
Yeah, exactly.
because what people don't really realize is how much work and time actually goes into creating these games, especially
Yeah.
if you want to keep it entertaining and educational as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fine balance that you have to hit, and it takes quite a lot of work on a lot of sides, really.
Yeah, I could imagine. And what's the name of this, the dating game?
It is actually the dating game.
Oh,
Better
really?
Topics. Yes. It's Better
Okay.
Topics, the dating game. The first one is
Okay, that's
Better
fun. I like
Topics.
that.
Yeah, the first one is Better Topics card game for couples, and this one
Mm-hmm.
will be Better Topics, the dating game. Uh,
Okay, that's
and
cool.
we
Keep
will
it simple. Keep it all in the same same family.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, and just to make it obvious enough, which one is for couples and which one is for
Yeah.
dating. And it will soon be launched via a Kickstarter campaign. Uh,
Okay.
and we are super, super excited for that as well.
So are you
And
still like just in the testing phases right now?
yes, right now we are still in the testing phases and preparing like a lot of material for when it will come out. And
Mm-hmm.
because with Kickstarter, once it's on, it's quite intense. It lasts for like a month, but
Mm-hmm.
it's super intense because the more people back us, obviously the better. And if we reach our goal and surpass it, then we'll have enough funds to actually produce it properly and um, prove that there is actually a lot of interest for these types of games out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think there will be for sure.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited about it. I can't wait. And again, I can't wait to see the physical card as well in my hand.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it too. So, from, I mean, these are two very big changes you've had with the move and the game. From September 2021 last year when we spoke to now, is there anything that you think you now would want to tell yourself back then?
Wow. Yes. The first thing would be this saying I keep repeating, and is more true every time I say it, is be very careful what you wish for, because that is
Mm.
exactly what you will get. Um, and I think the second one would be, don't get too attached, to physical things, because better things are yet to come.